You were sort of most surprised for somebody to come up to you and say, "Oh, this is the movie that I remember you most from, or that I love you most in," because you have done such a broad, even though your characters have been sort of consistently kind of authoritative, empowered. You've done, these sort of fantasy films, you've done action films, you've done horror. Is there any film when somebody came up to you and they were like, "I really loved you in this movie," and you were like, "Wow, I almost forgot that I was in that," because it was unlike other, some of the other projects that you had done?
Once in a while, someone will come and they will bring up a movie where I've totally forgotten, which is some old movie that they dug up in some little, video store that I did in Europe, in Italy or in Germany or somewhere, that I don't remember anymore. But probably the funniest thing is, and that has come up actually only on that movie, and that's funny because the movie was called Bluebeard, and it starred Richard Burton with, Raquel Welch was in that, and a lot of beautiful women, and they played his wives. I played the prostitute in that seduces Natalie Delon, Alain Delon's ex-wife, and that's quite a scene. And so a few times I've had rather young men come up to me and say, "I really loved you in Bluebeard," because that's the only time I ever played a prostitute. And those roles were always thankful because you get to be sassy and sexy and in control, and it's just, I think whether it's Dolly Parton or whoever has ever played, or Irma La Douce, Shirley MacLaine, playing a prostitute is always a very thankful role. But these are very young men that come up and say, "I really loved you in Bluebeard," and I look at him and I say, "Well, you were in diapers when you saw that." So that's probably the most fun situation that I've found.
Well, I know that Chained Heat's coming out on DVD in just a couple months, if I'm not mistaken. How tough or easy has it been to get your other films out and distributed on DVD? I know Warrior Queen, I don't think that one's out on DVD, is it? But some of those 80s films that you've done, are you spearheading any effort to get them on DVD or Blu-ray or anything?
Warrior Queen has not been out yet. No, Jungle Warriors has been out. No, Warrior Queen has not been out yet. On some of those movies, either the producers have passed away, or the rights sometimes get tied up. Like just now in the panel that I was asked about Julie Darling. I did an interview for a special for the DVD release almost 3 years ago, and it still hasn't come out, so you never know what happens. I did an interview for Chained Heat, and that was 3 or 4 years ago, and it is coming out now. So sometimes it's just, it's very expensive to bring the movies out, and I really don't know where the problem lies with the various DVDs. I really don't know. And then sometimes the studios are really stupid, because The Howling 2, that was so very, very popular, one of my most popular movies, especially at these shows, and at this show in particular, the DVD came out, and it was like a whole new life for that movie, which did very, very well in theatrical when we did the movie in the 80s. But when it came out when I heard it was coming out, I told Philippe Moura, our director, I said, we should do an interview for that. Has anybody approached you? He said, "No, Sybil, that's good. Call up MGM." So I called up MGM, and they said, "Well, we just sold it to Sony. You have to call Sony." So then I called Sony, and I said to Sony, the director and I would be more than happy to do an interview for our fans, behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, well, we already did up the DVDs, it's too late. But if we ever have Howling 1 and 2 come out, we'll get back to you." And I called Philippe, I said, "Are they crazy?" It would have been one phone call from somebody on their team to him and to me. We were willing to do it. We would have even done it for free, just to contribute to that movie and to our fans who want, like I'm sitting here, us to talk about our, experience and the time that we had on the movie, and etc. So, you never know. You never know. I mean, you always think that, I think, when people do their job, they're doing it professionally, but you never know what happens. Here you have MGM, between MGM and Sony, not one person thought, wow, wouldn't that be nice if we got some interviews to go with the DVD? Not one. So Howling 2 came out with nothing on it, just the movie. Thank God the movie's very popular. So you never know why something doesn't happen. You know, probably, you know, I've had people say, oh, why didn't they do your interviewers? And I said, I told them the same story.
Well, is there a film that you worked on that you are particularly proud of, that you would like for people to, you know, in your filmography, that you would like people to rediscover or revisit now, that you just think is something you thought was your favorite, something that you felt the most creatively challenged or satisfied by?
Well, I have a lot of favorites. I mean, I love Battle Beyond the Stars because, hey, that was another remake, which they've made a few, of The Seven Samurai, which is Akira Kurosawa's wonderful movie. So that I'm very proud of. And I played the Horst Buchholz character, you know. I'm the only woman that goes along, and this was the version in outer space with, I mean, wonderful actors, and I loved that, and flying a spaceship, and my costumes, and everything. I loved The Howling. I loved that role. I loved it very much. But when you said special or especially proud of because it was challenging, there is a movie that's very challenging, and it never had a major release here due to the circumstances, again, which are always sometimes not understandable. It is called Operation Thunderbolt. And Operation Thunderbolt was third of 3 movies. One was a little TV movie, one was Irvin Kershner did a little action movie, but ours was nominated for Best Foreign Film. Operation Thunderbolt was the story of Entebbe. That was the raid on Entebbe in 76, where a Air France bus was hijacked. It was going from Tel Aviv to Paris, and it was hijacked by 2 members of the Baader Meinhof group. And I'm very proud of that because Menachem Golan directed it. I think it's the best thing he ever did. That was where the Israeli army flew into Entebbe, kind of like what happened now in
Pakistan.
In Pakistan. Yes, it was a sneak attack by the Israeli forces. They went in there and basically freed their hostages. And the 2 terrorists that were in charge was Gabriele Tiedemann, who I played. And I was in Munich at that time, still living there. And Menachem came to Munich and he said, Sybil, we're going to do this movie. And I said, us and 3 others. And he said, no, but we're going to do the best. So who do we get? We got to do it right away. You play the terrorist, but you got to do something with yourself because you're too sexy and too beautiful. She was ugly, this and that. I said, don't worry about me. I'll do that. And he said, who are we going to get for the guy? And I said, there's only one, Klaus Kinski. He says, you know him? I said, yeah. I called him up in Paris. And Klaus was known to be, what is the word? It was very hard for me because I raised the money. I got 2 million D-marks at that time to do the movie. But the distributor said they don't want Klaus Kinski. I had to fight for him because he was doing a Kishon play around Germany, and when somebody would comment, he would stop the play and spit out at the audience. I mean, he was called the enfant terrible, the terrible kid. And they said, you know, he has a bad reputation and he's uncontrollable. And I said, I take full responsibility. And they said, it's all your responsibility. And I said, I will get him. So then I told him, you're going to play this character. He didn't know who the character was. And the word with Klaus was always, he would always say when somebody offered him a role, he would say, don't send me the script, send me the check. So when I told him about this character, he didn't read newspapers. And then he said, and anyhow, who's this Israeli director? And I said, oh, he's this and that. And he said, Israeli director. Well, anyhow, tell him I want to have this money. And he said an outrageous amount. Menachem standing there like that, you know, next to me. Anyhow, bottom line, I said, you talk to your agent. I'll call you back tomorrow. And if you want to play it, you tell me tomorrow, because you're going to go down in history with this movie. He called me the next day, whole different tune. oh, yeah, I want to play that role. Anyhow, and I told him, I said, you don't behave, you don't show up, you do anything wrong, first of all, you're not going to get paid till this movie's over, and if you do anything, you'll get sued on top of it. You won't get paid and sued because they don't want you. I put my hand in the fire for you, and he was wonderful. We shot the movie in all the Ben Gurion, the Entebbe, and Benghazi, because we stopped off in Libya. The Benghazi, because Gaddafi helped us, of course, the Germans against the Israelis. Gaddafi in Benghazi and Entebbe airports were all shot in Israel, and it was challenging because we were in a hurry to get it done. It was December when we shot it. We were in the plane because so much of it was in the plane, and here we were in Benghazi and Entebbe where it was hot, and here it was cold, right on the water in Israel in December, freezing. They spritzed us with water, so we looked like we were, sweating. Then we went outside, ice cold wind. I shot in I had a fever. I had the doctor every day giving me injections to shoot. But it was challenging because it was really the only movie I ever did that was based on a historical event, and an event of really quite a proportion. And interesting because now, again, of what, our Navy SEALs did in Pakistan is quite interesting. The movie came out in Germany, but the theaters were, they said if you show that in the theaters, we're going to bomb the theaters. So we had a lot of problems with that. It never came out in a wide release in the United States. Maybe now would be a good time to bring it out again. But it was screened for the Academy, and we were nominated as Best Foreign Film. And Klaus and I we got great reviews because when I was asked to play that role, it was a time where, and Menachem had that confidence in me. Of course, I brought the money, so that money talks. That didn't hurt. Never got a credit for it or paid for it, just as an actor. But that's okay. I learned that when you bring money, that you're a producer and you get a credit and you get paid for that. But what I did was I just wore no makeup, and of course I was sick, so I had pimples in my face. My face was red. I wore a wig. I wore myself down. I wore, very loose clothes and flat shoes and everything because she was not attractive. And then Menachem said, which of course is death for every actor, she always wore dark glasses because he talked to a few of the hostages and got very important, little details from people who that the other shows didn't, the other movies didn't show because they didn't know those details. So I said to him, okay, I'm willing to wear those dark glasses, but I want to find one scene where I'm going to take them off because I want people to see my eyes. And that was the sign when, I don't know if you ever saw it, it was a scene where food is being passed out, and I discover that one of the guys has a knife, and I go crazy, and I take my glasses off, and I say, Wilfried, der Messer! They have knives, and I wanted them to see that sadistic look in my eyes because she was known to be very sadistic. Her partner, the male partner, Wilfried Böse, was just doing his job. But she took really a kindness to being sadistic. She would, hit there was an interrogation scene where she would hit the Israeli officers, and she was just into being very sadistic. So overplaying that character would have been a caricature, and underplaying it, she wouldn't have been who she was. And because I knew from these people how sadistic and mean and how she was, that was a challenge for me. And putting it together under those circumstances, I'm very proud of that movie. And it's called Operation Thunderbolt.